Peace and welcome to the Message to the Black Fam program. I am your host, Angela Freeman, and we are here on June 25th, 2013. As the irritated Jeannie would say, year of the Peckerwood. Should have an interesting show in store for you today. I'm not sure anybody else on War on the Horizon has touched this topic yet. It's loosely based off of chapter 6 in the book God's Gift by yours truly, and the book chapter 6 is called Sensual Healing, and it deals with sex in regards to the relationship. But I'm going to change it up a little bit because y'all have the book, y'all have read it. It's pretty much self-explanatory. I really don't need to get into that today. But what I do want to deal with is what I think is the number one relationship killer, and that is sexual irresponsibility and a lack of discipline. So we're going to talk about that today. Now, during this series, as I said, I'm going every week for the next few weeks. So this can be a long show or a short show. It's completely up to you. The more callers I get, the longer I'll go. But when I run out of stuff to say, if I don't have anybody on the line, I'm going to just go on and end the program at that time. So go on and call in early. If you need to call in, the number is 760-569-7676. Participation code 948656 pound. That's 948656. Go on and hit the pound key when you dial in. Now, I do need to give you guys a disclaimer. I'm going to try not to preach today, but in case I start preaching, I have been an abstinence educator on and off since I was in the 10th grade. So about since the age of 15, over half my life, on and off, we've done this. When I was in high school, we had a program, actually even when I was in junior high, with the public school system in my city. And basically it was, they wanted to teach abstinence education because at that time sex ed was just getting big. You had the whole AIDS epidemic and things like that. And parents were saying, well, if you're going to teach my children to use condoms, then you need to give them another option too, not just condoms, but we need to talk about abstinence. So what they would do is have 10th graders go and teach a 7th grade class on abstinence education. It was called the PSI program, Postponing Sexual Involvement. And it was really cool because it was kind of like reverse peer pressure. Because a lot of times when you're young, you have your peers pressuring you to have sex. So this program worked to have your peers pressure you, or not pressure you not to have sex, but make it okay, make it cool to not have sex until you were ready. So I got into that program. I took the program in 7th grade, and then I became a youth educator in 10th grade, and then on and off, was involved with that program. And then, of course, after a while, they stopped that program because it was no longer in vogue to do that. We all know that in the black community, they do not want us to have morality. They'd rather us be just some freaky deakies and get into all kinds of foolishness because that is a weapon of destabilization. And I want you guys to remember that. You might say, we're on War on the Horizon. Why are you talking about this? Because everything is warfare. And hopefully listening to my show, you realize that. Food is warfare, disease is warfare, the gender war is warfare, and this lack of discipline is complete warfare. And we're falling for it, hook, line, and sinker. So we are definitely going to get into that today. As I said, I'm going to try not to preach, but hopefully you'll get something out of it. Now, I do want to say, if we're going to say that we're moral and we're so revolutionary, we need to have some kind of standards of morality. We cannot get up here and preach about what everybody else is doing wrong and we're doing nothing to correct our situation. To any females listening, there is no such thing as a wifey. You're either a wife or you're not, period. You're a wife or you're not. And if you are a wife, then you need to behave as a wife. And if you are not a wife, then you should not be behaving like a wife. You should be holding that man accountable. We make it very easy for men when we decide to do all these wifely things without actually having the title and commitment of wife. So ladies, if you are falling into that trap, please be careful of that because you're giving him no incentive to marry you if you're just going to do everything that a wife does without actually being a wife. There is no such thing as wifey. Get that out of your vocabulary. Now, I do want to start by saying that sex is very important to a relationship. It's a way to bond. It's a way to stay connected. Um, it's a way when you're having problems. Some people say don't stay in a relationship just because of sex, but sex can help to smooth things out because that is how you connect to your partner in a healthy relationship. So it is very important. So I will not at all start to negate that. However, it is a responsibility and it has a time and a place. We engage in sex way, way too early, and it creates a whole lot of problems. I do want to say that in a marriage, and I actually mentioned this in the book, you do not hold your partner hostage. Once you're married, you do have a responsibility. Not that you should look at it as a responsibility, but honestly, it does become a responsibility to be intimate with your partner because that is the only place that your partner can go for satisfaction. If they're a legitimate partner and they're not going to go outside the relationship. So, sex is a weapon, all that kind of silly stuff that women do, you need to stop. That is not at all okay. When you are married, you become one and you work in the interest of one. So all that sex is a weapon and I'm mad at you and all this kind of silly, immature stuff, that needs to disappear in a functional relationship. But for that, as I said, you can refer to God's gift, How to Be a Good Black Woman to a Strong Black Man, and I get more into that in that book. Sex is not something to be taken lightly. A lot of times, because of the way we're raised, because of the media that we've watched, especially the younger generation, we act like it's just shaking hands or something. It seems like we don't really understand that you are uniting as one. Like you are actually becoming one. You're sharing energy. You're sharing, your body, basically. It's not something to be taken lightly. And that's one reason that we're not able to choose good mates a lot of the time. We should not be quote unquote dating. We separate that in the Nation of Islam. There's something called courtship and there's something called dating. Dating is what we do, just the trifling old Negro stuff. Meet, go out to the bar, go back to somebody's house, and then you claim you in love the next day. Now you got a relationship that's failed, destined to fail. That's dating. Courtship is a process. It's actually investigating the person you're with so that you can make a good decision. Is this the person I want to be with? Is this not the person I want to be with? So what happens in a courtship, if you were in the mosque, basically, you would ask your the man would tell the captain, I'm interested in this sister. And then the captain would come and ask you if you're interested in the brother. You could say yes, no, whatever. After that time, you would begin to question each other. So this is where this is for anybody. I know if you're not in the temple, you're not going to actually come together in that way. But once you do find somebody you're interested in, you need to start asking questions. You need to find out, what is important to you? What are your values? What do your finances look like? How is your family? What are your life experiences? These are all things that you need to be getting to know before you engage in any kind of sexual relationship with your partner. This is it could be a long process, a short process. It depends on how long it takes you to find out all these things. When I was courting my husband, I started talking to him, I think in September. I met him for the first time in October, and we were married in February. So with us, it was pretty short, especially considering it was a long distance relationship and we only saw each other like 3 times before we got married. But it could be a year, it could be 2 years. It depends on how long it takes you to be comfortable with that person. But until you know that this is definitely a person you want to be with, you should not be engaged in sexual activity with them. At that point, you are just qualifying them. And they can be disqualified at any moment. And ladies, this is something that we do a lot of. We see somebody and we kind of like them. And we think, oh, if there's just a couple things he changed, he would be the perfect partner. That is destined to fail. That is absolutely destined to fail. Because nobody is going to change for you, not permanently. People change because they want to change, because they feel the need to change, not just because you want them to change. So when you are in this courtship process, you should be looking at this man as he is and saying, can I accept him as he is. And if there are things that you see that are deal breakers, then he is disqualified. No hard feelings. You move on to the next. And it's easy to do that when you have not had that intimate contact. And brothers, the same for you. I hear a lot of brothers, because y'all be sending me messages on all kinds of stuff. I swear I've heard every question in the world in my inbox from some of y'all brothers. Look, if you meet a woman and you say, well, she's got some qualities, but, I don't like how she dresses. Okay, well, you need to tell her that and see if she's going to change how she dresses over a period of time. And if she changes that, then fine, go on and get with her. But you cannot get with somebody as they are and then expect them to change later on down the road. That's not fair. It does not work. You do not get with somebody expecting them to change. You tell them, I don't like this aspect. I have a problem with this aspect. This is why. It shows more self-respect when you're modest. It adds a layer of safety when you're modest. And if she wants to make the change, then that's fine. But she has to do that for herself. She can't do it because you're forcing her to. That won't work. And these are things that you look for during the courtship process. You want to meet family. You want to meet children. You want to do all these things before you even begin to think about sleeping with somebody. This is basic morality, basic ethics. And a lot of people will say it's unrealistic. Well, why is it unrealistic? If you're a nationalist, you're supposed to be interested on building. And if you can't build a family, you can forget building a community. If you don't have a family, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to look at you sideways. Because you can't tell me about building all these great external things when you don't even have your own cipher going on. You don't even have your own thing complete or not even working towards that. If you're still running around being a player, getting with everybody you can get with, using nationalism as a pimp game, not taking you seriously. You have to have a family first. And you cannot have a family if you're building it on shaky grounds. So definitely sex is not something to be entered into lightly. You definitely want to take that time and investigate. Find out if this is the person that you want to be with. And that's an ongoing process. That's not something you can do in 2 weeks. Not something you can do in 2 months. I've heard brothers say, if I don't get some in 2 months, I'm out. Well, then you ain't really building a relationship. You ain't really about it. Because in 2 months, 9 times out of 10, you are not going to know enough about somebody to build a family. You don't know if they're stable. You don't know a lot about their history. A lot of things come out in time. So you can't make such a quick determination. And I don't know what the rush is anyway. We act like we cannot go a month, 2 months, 6 months without some kind of gratification. And I'll tell you what helps a lot in that, if just turning off the TV, turning off rap music, turning off R&B music, listen to some jazz, smooth jazz, something like that, watch documentaries in the news, but don't watch mainstream media, don't listen to mainstream radio, because that's going to keep your mind in the gutter and make it harder for you to have the kind of discipline that you should have. We're adults. We're not teenagers. We're not animals in heat. We're adults, and I think that we can do a lot better than what we're doing. Once sex enters the picture, your courtship is pretty much null and void, because once you are intimate with somebody, you're no longer objective. Either you are really, really into this person and you're willing to overlook a lot of things that you wouldn't otherwise, or you just disgusted and you don't want to have anything to do with them. It's going to be one thing or the other. But you're never going to be as objective after the act as you would have been before the act. So that's definitely, like I keep saying, something to keep in your mind when those thoughts start to creep up. What are you building? What's more important, this instant gratification or making sure that your family is straight? If you plan on having children, do you not owe it to them to make sure that they have a stable parent? And this is for men and women, because I see men do it all the time. You go out and you pass up the decent woman, the respectable woman, and go get the woman with the tightest skirt, and then she gets pregnant, and you want to battle with her for the rest, 18 more years about child support and visitation and this and that. Well, you didn't choose the high quality woman. And women do the same thing all the time. Men aren't this, men aren't that, all men are dogs. Well, you chose them. You chose them. Nobody raped you. Nobody made you lay down and do anything. You chose the father of your children. And every time you lay down with somebody, you are potentially choosing the other parent of your child. Birth control is not 100%. Condoms certainly aren't 100% because we don't even use them right the majority of the time. So you can't count on those things. And you shouldn't anyway, because as I said, you're still exchanging energy. There's still bodily contact that can exchange diseases, all kinds of other things. So we have to start being mature and taking this a lot more seriously than we are. And I'll say this to women who always say that men are dogs, men are boys, there's no real men. There's no real men because we are not forcing them to be men. We have no standards whatsoever. And those of us that do are being overpowered by women who don't. So it's very hard to hold men to a standard when they can go get it very easily somewhere else. Men are cheating because we allow them to cheat. If all the women who mess with married men knowingly stop messing with married men, they wouldn't be able to cheat. We make it easy. We allow this to go on. Men don't have to be fathers because guess what? If they make a family over here and they don't want to be bothered, they can go to this woman over there and start another family with her because she's so desperate. She don't care. We don't have each other's backs, and so we all suffer. Men do not have to be men because if one person requires them to be a man, there's 3 or 4 others that don't. So to every woman that complains that there are no men, all men are boys and all this kind of stuff, you need to look in the mirror because 9 times out of 10, we are the ones who are allowing that to happen. Men do not have to be chivalrous anymore. And that bothers me because when I was coming up, men would hold the door open, they would speak. I noticed walking around on my lunch break, like a lot of men don't even speak anymore. Like I go out of my way to speak to people and try to be friendly, black people, especially black men, because I know that so often people are rude to them, mean to them, and sometimes just seeing a smiling face is enough to kind of lift somebody's spirits if they've been having a hard day. And it's getting to the point where I almost don't want to do it anymore because, brother, I'll be like, peace, brother, what's up? And give them a smile and all this, and they just nod their head and keep walking. I'm like, what? This is because, women, you are letting these men do this. If you stop getting with people who did not open the door, would not help you with groceries, did not help you just do things that men should be helping women with, they would have to step up their game. As I said, if we stop getting with men who are not responsible, they would have to step up their game. If you got somebody sitting at home with you, living off of you, just so that you can have a body around, that's a problem. Now, it's one thing if your man was employed and, with the economy and everything, he's unemployed, he's looking for a job, trying to figure out his next move. Perfectly okay. Support that brother. That's a good brother. But if he's just laying around the house playing, I guess Tecmo Bowl is dated now, what they play, whatever they play now, playing video games, while you out working your 2 jobs, you come home, the house is dirty, he's sitting at home eating some pickled pig's feet, it's a problem. You're letting him be irresponsible, and then you're complaining about the quality of men. You are creating the quality of man. As far as having skills, men should know how to change tires. They should know how to defend themselves, not just talk, because a lot of men talk, and the ones who talk the most are usually the biggest punks. They should know actual self-defense. They should know how to do some basic plumbing, change car tires. If they don't know how to do these things, you should not talk to them. That lowers their value, and you should not be that desperate because these are things they should learn how to do. And I'm not just downing women right now because I'm guilty too. My ex-husband could not change the wheel on the tire. He could not change the tire. Like, I had to tell him once, like, I can tell you how to do it. Can you just do it? I mean, I could do it if I could get the little nuts off the car. I've seen it done before. He had no clue. That makes no sense. That I could probably change a tire better than he could. Grown man. So I'm not just getting on women. I've been guilty of this too, and that's why I can speak on it. We allow the quality of men to be low. And as I said, fidelity. All this cheating going on would not go on if we were decent women, because it wouldn't be so easy for them. They would at least have to lie about it. They don't even have to lie about it anymore. It's women who will only mess with a married man because they're not woman enough to have a relationship of their own. So they just want somebody's sloppy seconds. There's some women who they don't care one way or the other. It's ridiculous. And men, the same goes for you. If you required your women to dress modestly, if you wouldn't talk to women with perms, blah, 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 then we might start being more accepting of our natural selves, whatever, because I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen. I've seen somebody, I went out with a group of people and they were relaxed. They had relaxed hair. And to me, they would have been the obvious choice for somebody to try to talk to because, I was dressed very modestly. I had my, like a hat on with some of my hair out. It was nappy. It was real nappy. I needed to do it. So my hair was real nappy. I was dressed modestly. I was sipping on like a iced tea. They weren't dressed as modestly. They had perms in their hair, looking all jazzed up. I think they were sipping on some alcohol or something. They would have been like the people that I would have expected somebody to try to talk to. But a brother asked me, is that your natural hair? I said, yes, sir. And he's like, oh, I love that. And you should have seen the look on the other sisters' faces because they said to themselves, like, wow, I thought if I went natural, nobody would look at me. I thought wouldn't nobody want to be bothered with me. That's really the reason why they do some of the things that they do. So just changing your preferences and letting women know that that is an option and there are men out there who like that can completely, if not change their mentality, it can at least set off a light bulb that, yo, I can be kind of like more like this sister and I can still get play. So men, it goes the same way. If we hold each other to higher standards, we will have to live up to those standards. And that's the problem now. There are no standards in the black community at all. Everybody is messing with everybody. There's no fidelity. There's no building foundations of relationships. We just kind of fall into each other's arms and hoping for the best. And that does not work. We need to really start looking at the roles of husbands and wives and fathers and mothers. When you're looking for a man, you're looking for somebody who's responsible. You're looking for somebody who can keep his word. A man is only as good as his word. If his word is not worth anything, neither is he. You are looking for somebody who is a problem solver. They shouldn't bring a whole bunch of problems into your life. They should help you resolve your problems if you're humble enough to let them help you solve your problems. But somebody just, coming to your house, all they're doing is bringing more bills, creating more problems. They always got drama. They always whining about something. Men don't whine. And it's a lot of whiny men out there now, mostly because they've been raised by black women and took on some of our characteristics. Men should not be whining about stuff. They should be finding some solutions, troubleshooting, finding solutions to problems. When you're looking at a wife, she should be feminine. She should be nurturing. She should be consoling. If she can't be nurturing and consoling to you, how is she going to be nurturing and consoling to children who look like you, especially when they're getting on her nerves? That's why you hear women all the time, these horrible mothers saying, oh, you look just like your daddy. Well, she can't be nurturing to the daddy. You look just like him. That means you're going to get it too. And that child cannot defend itself against some of these crazy women out there. So when you're looking for a wife, you're looking for somebody who is cooperative, somebody who knows how to talk to you. Now, let me tell you, everybody is a work in progress. It's very hard for black women to control our tongues. So, you might have to work with us there. But at least be willing to get with somebody who will apologize when they're wrong. If they do say something disrespectful, they're not so arrogant that they won't apologize. Because we are going to say things from time to time that are mean-spirited, that may be disrespectful. But at least have the common courtesy to say, you know what, I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. Look for those kind of things. When you're looking at somebody that you intend to have a sexual relationship with, they should be husband potential, father potential, wife potential, mother potential. Don't just think about yourself. Think about the children that are probably going to come from these relationships. Make sure that they have those qualities. I know, ideally, when we're talking about morals and ethics and being African-centered and all this, if we really want to be technical, we should not be getting involved in any kind of intimate relationships before marriage. Now, don't hang up. If you're in the calling queue, don't hang up. I know y'all saying, okay, she done lost her mind. She's very unrealistic now. That's not going to happen. Well, number one, if it doesn't happen, it's because pretty much you're cooning. You're not in it trying to find a partner. You're in it just cooning around. because it's not that hard to find somebody, because it's process of elimination. Okay, you have what I want, I'll stick with you, whatever. No, you're lacking this. Okay, well, I can't talk to you, on to the next. Okay, you're lacking this, I can't talk to you, on to the next. Okay, well, you have what I want, let's get together. It's not rocket science, and it doesn't have to take 10 years. If we have a little bit of patience and a little bit of discipline, we could do that if we were marriage minded. But most of us are not marriage minded, which is a huge problem, because the babies are going to come. So if you're not going to wait until you're married, which I know 90% of y'all aren't, my standard would at least be, especially for women, do not have sex before you have a reason to know the other person's social security number. Now, this don't mean just go and ask them their social security number right quick so you could do what you want to do. No, not until you have a reason to know their social security number. Because honestly, if you don't need to know somebody's social security number, you're really not building anything. That means you're not buying any property together. You're not on each other's insurance. Y'all not in business, building a business together. You're really not doing anything together if you don't need to know that information. That's a pretty good indicator that you are actually growing as a unit, that you're actually doing something and planning a future together that's serious. And to be honest, it's disturbing. Most of us will protect our social security number more than we will protect our own genitalia. Just think about that. We are, unless your credit is just shot, most of us do not want other people knowing our personal information. If you go out with somebody on a first date, you're not going to tell them your social security number, but yet many of us will hop right into bed with them. What kind of sense does that make? And have you ever thought about it like that? Your body is your life. Without your body and your health, I mean, you're dead. Why are we more worried about our financial security than our sexual security, than our physical security? It makes absolutely no sense. So if you already got it in your mind, you know that you're not disciplined to do the whole wait until you're married thing, at least wait until you have a reason to know the other person's social security number. If you don't have a reason to know that, you have no reason to know them intimately, because it's not that deep. Another thing before you engage in any kind of physical relationship is STD testing. Now, this kind of touchy for me because I'm kind of in a holistic health, and so, use your own best judgment. I'm not a doctor. Personally, I believe that the HIV thing is a hoax. There's a really good documentary on it. I think it's called House of Numbers, but I've thought that for a long time. When I first started off in college, I was going for biochemistry. I had an uncle who died of AIDS in 1990. And so I was always fascinated by AIDS and viruses, and I wanted to work with like AIDS and Ebola and stuff. So I used to study it back in the day. I ended up, I didn't finish going to school for biochemistry pre-med, but that was my goal as a child. And I just always thought it was a hoax. I always believed that it was the AZT and other drug cocktails and medications that were actually making people die, quote unquote, die from HIV. But that's on you. So you can do the AIDS test or not, whatever. But there are so many other STDs. You do need to be tested. You need a full workup of tests, because a lot of them you do not even know, you may not even know that you have. A big one, I think the most popular last time I checked, was chlamydia. A lot of people have that, and that's one that, especially women, you may not know that you have. You need to go get tested. Gonorrhea is another one that sometimes people don't know they have. That's more women than men. Men usually will have some kind of symptoms. And that's going into like a super strain where it's becoming resistant to medication, which means if you get a certain kind of gonorrhea in the future, like actually some places it's getting spread around right now, but you're not going to be able to get treated for it. You're going to be stuck with it. I don't think that would be a nice disease to be stuck with. There are genital warts, better known as HPV, and they're saying now that can give you a woman's cervical cancer. Some of them have warts, some of them don't, so you may be carrying that and not even know. That is a virus, though, that sometimes it can, quote unquote, they'll say burn itself out, which means sometimes your body will just get rid of it. But they are trying to vaccinate girls against that nowadays. Personally, I'm opposed to it. I think that we can avoid that by being sexually responsible, just like we can avoid the other diseases by being sexually responsible. Another big one would be herpes. I've heard that up to 50% of black women, they're saying, now have that. Now, I don't know how accurate that is. That's the CDC. I don't necessarily trust anything the CDC says because I found a lot of fallacies on their website. But they're saying up to 50% of black women have that. And I'm sure most of them are getting it from black men. So that's something that you definitely need to be careful of because you can't get rid of it. And I know a couple people who have it. I know somebody, I was actually kind of not there when she got diagnosed, but speaking to her along the way when she got diagnosed. And it was excruciating. It was excruciating. She went through a whole lot of stuff for somebody that she didn't even love. Somebody she thought, she was cool with. And now she's stuck, for the rest of her life. It's really not worth it. I used to work for a health insurance company and people used to call in, with this virus, and it was not, it was no joke. It was absolutely no joke. So if you are one of those people who like to look in people's medicine cabinets, if you nosy like that, first of all, I would say don't be nosy like that. Don't be going looking for nothing you don't want to find. But if you are one of those people that's nosy like that, if you see like Valtrex, or I think it's called acyclovir, that would be a telltale sign that the person you are with has herpes. That's something that's not the easiest thing to test for. You kind of have to look for the outbreak. There may be a blood test with that. Don't quote me on it. But that would be the most serious one, because if you are having an outbreak around the time that you deliver a baby, that baby will have to be in kind of isolation in the nursery for 2 weeks. It can actually kill a baby. There are instances in New York where Jewish rabbis, a lot of them have a lot of pedophilic, what do you call it? Like pedophilic things that they do when a baby is born. One of them is after they circumcise the baby, they actually suck on the baby's penis. They say that the suction clears like the wound, like sanitizes it, which is ridiculous because human saliva is very filthy. But Jewish rabbis actually do this. You can look it up. I'm not making it up. I wouldn't even play about something like that. And some of the rabbis are low freaky deaky and they got herpes. And so they have transmitted herpes to some of these babies. And it has actually killed them because herpes can be fatal to newborns. And that's why they isolate them when they're born if there's any chance that they've been exposed. And so that is something to worry about when you think that 50% of black women have that. These are women that are going to be birthing babies. That's why you need to be careful about who you're with and the things that you do, because it can really come back to haunt you when you're ready to actually get serious and have a baby. It can be born without complications, but do you really want to take that chance? Do you really want to put your unborn babies in jeopardy? Hopefully not. Before you begin any kind of intimate relationship with somebody, so you have, you're building something together, their social security number, you've had your STD testing, you need to have a conversation before you even approach any kind of intimate situation. Because right now, the way we've been raised, everybody is a pervert. Absolutely everybody has something wrong with them, just insanity. You need to talk about your standards of decency. When you start having all them late night conversations, you know how y'all nasty, nasty folk do. Y'all start having them conversations. You need to be upfront about your standards of decency, what is and is not acceptable to you. And Jeannie makes a good point a lot of times that sometimes when you're having these conversations, before you talk, you need to just listen. You need to ask questions and see where their head is, because sometimes if you say, I'm against this, they'll say the same thing just to stay with you, just to be able to be with you. So you may want to just ask them, like, how do you feel about this practice or that practice? Let them talk so you know their position, and then you can go on and say yours. I'm not going to get into what is and what is not acceptable. We all have consciences. We all know that. Anybody over the age of 30 should know what is acceptable and what's not. If you're under 30, it's probably a toss-up. You may be clueless. I would recommend that you get some of the books by Baba Baruti, and that might point you in the right direction as to what is and is not acceptable for Africans worldwide as far as your intimate practices. But you definitely want to be clear about that, and you don't want to allow yourself to be pressured into anything that you will regret later, because there is nothing dirty about sex. You don't have to feel shy or ashamed speaking about it, but you do, well, I'll say this, the only time that there's something to be ashamed of is when you get into the degenerate aspect. When you're not being responsible, when you're getting into the land of perversion, that's the only time that there would be anything to be insecure about or ashamed of. So you want to stay away from that. Do not let anybody force you or pressure you into doing anything that is going to lower your dignity. One thing that I'm surprised about, and I've been hearing this a lot, men, you don't need to just worry about your own self and your own body. You need to learn your woman's body and her cycle. I get so tired of men talking about they were tricked, they were trapped, all this kind of stuff. Men need to know some basic stuff. I mean, you're grown. You are not 12 years old. There was sex ed at some point in your schooling, and if you didn't pay attention to any other class, you should have paid attention to that. If you didn't, there is something called Google. I suggest you Google some things. There was a brother the other day that told me, or actually told my husband, that he was in an encounter with a woman and she said, you know, don't worry, I'm not ovulating. And he didn't know what ovulating was. That's ridiculous. It ain't no way you should be 30, 40 years old and you don't know like basic stuff. And then you want to say the black man is God. Can you be a God if you don't even understand your own creation? If you don't understand how life is created, you don't understand how that works. How are you God? I have a problem with that. Like, the black man is God, but y'all be claiming that sometimes while you cooning. I'm sorry. Basically, woman has a monthly cycle. Okay? And there is an app for this. The first day of her cycle is the first day of menstruation. You can put that into this one of these apps. Just, you know, look in your app store for your phone. Click on like fertility calculator or menstrual calculator, anything like that. It'll pop up. Brothers, do this. It will stop you from getting game run on you. If you're not going to be sexually responsible, if you're not with somebody that you intend to be with for the rest of your life, or at least the next 18 years, do this. It could help you. So that is how you calculate the cycle. It is from the first day of the menstrual period, and depends on your woman's body, usually around 14 days after that. That's about halfway through, but about 14 days from the beginning of the cycle is when she will ovulate. When she ovulates, that means she released an egg that can be fertilized. That is when she can get pregnant. There's a few days period around that when she could get pregnant. If you get your app, it'll tell you, it'll have those days colored in. These are her fertile days. If you want to have a baby, do it. If you don't want to have a baby, don't do it. Period. But you can even do this on a calendar if you want to do it old school. You want to avoid those days during the middle there, and then after that, you're good to go. This is good to know if you do want to have a baby, because that's a reason why a lot of people think they're infertile. They're just not being involved at the right time. So, brothers, there's an app for it. It's no excuse. As I said, men don't whine about stuff. Can't no woman trap you. You should know what's going on with your woman's body. That is part of your responsibility. You should know exactly what's going on with your woman's body. And that way, if you have not been with her in a certain period of time and she comes home saying, I'm pregnant, you know to get the DNA test. You should know these things. A lot of people like to rely on condoms, and they are not really all that effective the way that we use them, because most of us do not use them correctly. We do not put them on early enough. We try to get them in all kinds of crazy sizes that are not appropriate. And I'm not going to get too far into this because I'm not going to, verge on vulgarity. We know what we're talking about. But most people are not using them correctly, so they're not really that effective. And they just, even with like diseases, like if we're talking about herpes or genital warts, HPV, that can be caused by skin-on-skin contact, and that little piece of plastic does not cover all of the skin in that region. So it's not going to give you the protection you think it's going to, like just because you use that, it's safe. No, not really. There was a study that came out that a lot of said for some diseases, with the way we use them, not using them correctly, that it may only offer between like a 20% to 50% effective rate for some things, for some diseases. For other ones, it can be up to, 80, 90% when used effectively, but we're not using them correctly. So keep that in mind. That is not going to necessarily save you from catching anything, which is another reason to be responsible. Now, a big part of God's gift, and really one of the most popular parts of the book, is when I talk about hygiene. Because this is something that should be passed down from father to son and from mother to daughter, and it's not. For some reason, we're not parenting our children anymore. We're not taking on an active role. All that we are really doing is setting them down in front of a TV. It's almost like they're a house plant or something. Like we look at our children like a cactus or something. Like just sit it there in a pot and water it sometimes, and it'll just keep growing, and that's it. And that's what we do with our children. They have nothing going on mentally because we're not putting anything into them. We are not teaching them anything. Like we feel like they're just going to grow up, and I don't know who's supposed to teach them these things, but they know nothing. Most of our children do not know how to even keep themselves clean. Women, we have all experienced. Now, look, let me tell you, men, y'all think women are clean? No, not at all. Women are much more trifling than men. And women, you all know, we've all gone into a public restroom behind somebody who looked really well put together, like she had it going on, and you go into that stall after she's finished and all hell breaks loose. You're like, whoa, what is going on here? And if you have not had an encounter like that with some stanky, nasty woman, then it could be you. I'm just saying. Hopefully not, but it could be you, because we've all experienced that. That is because they have not been taught how to keep themselves clean. And a lot of times they don't even smell it. It's hard to smell yourself. So I'm going to just let you in on a little secret. Putting on colognes and perfumes and oils and powders and all that does not hide anything. You need to be taking a bath a minimum of once a day, a full bath or shower, not a wash up, a bath. And really, summertime, you should be taking at least 2 a day, because you should be taking one when you get home from work and then again in the morning because it's hot. And really in the wintertime, you should do that too, but especially in the summer. There are a lot of women who only take a bath once every other day, once every 3 days, and in between they do what they call washing up, which is just standing at a sink, hitting the spots you think need to be hit. That is not getting you clean. That does not work, especially not in the heat. And just because you cannot smell yourself does not mean that nobody else can smell you. So please, women, take baths. Use deodorants. It doesn't have to be a commercial deodorant, mainstream deodorant. You can get the natural deodorant. You probably have to reapply it more often. Or you can even make deodorant at home out of like coconut oil, baking soda, cornstarch, arrowroot, stuff like that. Recipes are online. Google it. But you do need some kind of deodorant, especially in the summertime. Do something with that, because nobody wants to smell you. There's nothing worse than a smelly woman. And this is for men and women. If you smoke weed, first of all, you shouldn't be smoking weed. I don't advocate that. I've never smoked weed. I've never done drugs. Not my thing. But if you choose to do that, you need to take a bath very frequently, because it will make you stink. It gets into your clothes, especially in the wintertime. It gets into your coat. It gets into your hair. And everybody can smell it, and everybody judges you and thinks that you are a weed head. Because if you didn't smoke it all that often, you probably wouldn't smell that harshly. But it is a very, very strong, nasty odor. You need to get that off of you. That's just part of hygiene. There's a lot more about hygiene in the book. I'm not going to get too far into it, but it does get very, very detailed as far as how to keep yourself clean. As a woman, you definitely need to do that. No washing up in the sink. No washing up in the sink. That don't make no sense. The only time when that is halfway acceptable is maybe in the wintertime if you took a shower at night and you wake up and you still feeling fresh and you just want to get washed up right quick. Maybe you can get away with that. But I would still say hop it in the shower. That's just me. And the more you keep yourself clean, the more you will get used to being clean, and you will not be able to tolerate feeling grimy. You'll want to do that. Women who don't keep themselves clean, it's either the mother did not teach the child correctly, because I know mothers who've taught their children that it's okay to just do these wash-ups, which it's not. Or it is a sign that something is wrong with them, like mentally and spiritually. Maybe they've been sexually abused or raped. A lot of people who go through that, they're either ultra clean or they're very dirty. They have hygiene problems. They don't really respect their own bodies. They feel dirty, so they're like, well, hell with it, I feel dirty. So men, that's something to look for if you just are interested in somebody and their body is dirty, their house is dirty. They have a lot of work to do internally. That might not be the person that you want to get with at this time. And that's definitely probably not somebody that you want raising your children. They have a lot of stuff going on inside to be able to tolerate dirt, because that's not natural to black people. Black people have always been the cleanest people on the face of the earth. Now, Caucasians, that's another story. You know, they were in caves. They never bathed. Even their royalty did not bathe on a normal basis. That's normal for them. It is not normal for us. And if that is a problem for you, you got some things going on and you need to take care of that. You want to be using a pure soap. You don't want to be using a soap with a whole bunch of chemicals. You can use black soap or just all kinds of different soaps they have. And, you know, you don't have to get them from vendors. You can go straight to the company. If you like the Medina soaps, they have a website. You can order wholesale. It's not expensive. You can get them as low as $1 a bar, depending on what kind of soap you get. You know, I would look at some of those websites. If you like the soaps that like the African vendors have, you don't have to spend all your money with them. Get it yourself wholesale. But you don't want soaps, if you can help it, with a whole lot of scents, dyes, colors, chemicals, things like that. It's rough on your skin and it's rough on your private areas. So you want to make sure you're using a pure soap. Dr. Bronner's is a good soap. It's pretty much an all-purpose cleaner. I would recommend that. They have peppermint, they have lavender, but it's not artificial scents. It's actually pure essential oils. And you also want to make sure that if you are bathing once, twice a day, that you are also changing your clothes, including your underwear. It makes no sense to clean your body and then put on the same stanky drawers. Don't do that. Some of y'all do. Please stop. Some of the other things that were talked about in the book were dangers involving different kinds of AIDS and what some people will call them toys. I'm not going there. Read the book for that. That's some interesting things that a lot of people should know when y'all doing all that freaky deaky. Let's see. What else did I want to get into? Back to the wifey thing. As I said, if you are only a wifey, you're not a wife. So you don't want to do wifely things. Sex is a part of a wifely duty. You don't need to be doing if you're a wifey. Sharing money. Helping him with his bills. That type of stuff. If you are a wifey, you don't really need to be doing that. And really, you know, you want to get to know his children during the courtship. But like having his children move in with you and doing all kinds of stuff, going all out your way, you're not a wife, don't behave like a wife. You're giving him no incentive to want to marry you and to want to make a stable family unit. You're actually lowering the quality of man like I was talking about earlier. So those are other things that you want to really take into account. if you are wifey versus wife. There is no such thing as wifey. Do not play that role. Um, let's see. I think that is really just about all I have. I'm going to be going to the phone lines in just a few minutes. Again, the call-in number, 760-569-7676. Participation code 948656 #. As I said, we are going to go as long as I have callers, which means that if you don't call in with questions, we will be ending the program early. And it did remind me, I did talk to a coworker, and it was very interesting to me because she thought she was wilding out, but she was actually saying something that was actually a halfway decent way to look at it. She told me that she cannot wait to get married because there are a lot of things that she wants to do with her husband that she will not do with somebody who is not her husband. And that was the first step to being on the right track. You know, and she was talking about like in intimate relationships or whatever. You do not want to just be going all out and you're not married to somebody. That's just not something you want to do. And it does, like I said, make people not have much motivation to marry you if you already have done everything. If you are helping him pay his bills, if you are letting his children come stay with you because their mama's trifling, if you are doing all kinds of freaky deaky stuff, all these things that we're doing and we're not married, not only is it a problem morally, ethically, but it's lowering the quality of our pool of men. We're not having a whole lot to choose from because we're not requiring a lot. So definitely something that we need to work on. I'm going to go on and go to the phone lines. I think this is my brother, and I haven't heard from him in a while. Peace, how you doing? 3674? 3674. Okay. I know he ain't ever just listening. I'm going to have to come back to him in a minute and see if he was away from the phone. 6526, you're live on War on the Horizon. 6526, did you have a question or you just listening in? All right, I'm going to assume that they are just listening. 2874, you're live on War on the Horizon.
Just listening.
All right, well, thank you for listening. All right, I'm going to give y'all a few more minutes, see if anybody wants to call in. 760-569-7676, participation code 948656 #. I know I lost a lot of y'all because I'm talking about sexual responsibility, and that's one thing that we don't want to do, and I understand that. I completely understand that. It's not the way that we were raised. You know, especially for men feel like their manhood a lot of times is how many women they can conquer. Which is a completely European perspective, but it's a European perspective that we don't really want to let go of. Women don't really want to do this, number one, because a lot of them were sexually activated at very early ages. They were sexually abused, which makes them hypersexual, which means a lot of them have been acting out since they were very early, and it's hard for them to stop. It almost becomes like an addiction or a compulsion. And other women just feel like they will not be able to get a man if they hold off, if they are responsible, if they do have standards. So I understand that it's not necessarily something that everybody's going to want to co-sign on, but you need to co-sign on it. Because, as I said, when you are very irresponsible in how you handle your body, that is when you end up with diseases, which puts you out of commission. I mean, you can still have a family, but you ain't the most qualified necessarily at that point to have a healthy family. You're putting your family at risk. Or, like I said, just not being really in that moral position. Not being able to choose that good partner. You're more worried about who can make you feel good than who is actually going to be good for you. It's very, very superficial. And it's something that we have to work on if we are going to be nationalists, if we are going to be the people that other people look up to. Because I'm going to tell you what, I look around and, you know, I do know a few people now who don't fit this category. But for a long time, nationalists have more family issues than anybody I knew. Like, it was like the nationalist family situations were crazier than just the regular Negro family situations. Like, Negroes can have like a halfway stable family, but the conscious person, you knew they was going to be off the hook already. And that's really sad, because we should be the standard that people look up to. Not saying that we're perfect at all, because I'm not perfect. I got a lot of work to do. But we should be striving in that direction. And we should be talking amongst each other to try to develop some kind of code of conduct, some kind of standard. And women, we have to play a big role in this. We have to demand more, or we're never going to get it, and neither are our daughters. Men do not know how to be men anymore to women. They do not know how to treat us anymore, because we have not required them to know that. I've said that over and over. We require nothing. We're willing to take care of them. We're willing to feed them, clothe them, tuck them in, put them in bed like they're 7 years old. We're not willing to make them work for us. They don't feel like they have to work for us, so they don't. And it's ridiculous. At some point, we have to hold ourselves to higher standards. We cannot go around talking about we're African-centered, but we reject marriage, which is 100% African. How can you be African-centered if you are not serious about marriage and family? Now, maybe since the European is over there now, they fornicating and doing a lot of crazy stuff, but that was not our way. We were married. Even if we were in a polygamous marriage, we were married. And we were not just going around running through as many people as we could run through. We were not giving ourselves to as many brothers as we could give ourselves to, which creates more problems because we have way too much experience. And then when we try to settle down with one person, we have problems because we have all these other people in our memories. It's very, very sick and very dysfunctional. And until we become more functional, we're going to continue to have problems. Our families and our communities are going to be in complete turmoil. Let me go back real quick and see if my brother's back on the line. 3674, are you there?
Yes, Queen Black Power. How you doing, Shabab?
Black Power, I'm good. How are you? I haven't talked to you in a while. How you been?
Doing well, doing well. I'm enjoying the program tonight. Really enjoying the program tonight. Some agreements and some disagreements, but more agreements tonight with the program. When you were saying earlier, about nationalists, not, building families and so forth, I kind of disagree with that because I looked at one of my teachers, Kwame Ture.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the brother was married 2 times and divorced 2 times, and I don't think he left any children. But the brother could do a lot of work. But everything you've been saying tonight has been just on point. It's just been on point. And just the last point when you were talking, when you made about conscious couples having a lot of difficulties, is it because is it conscious people dating non-conscious people, Negroes, or conscious people dating conscious people who have backgrounds, or some of us don't really clean up our act when we come into this thing here. And then can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. And I will say there are definitely exceptions to the rule. I look at Baba Baruti. He is a wonderful example. There are a lot of really good examples of families within the conscious community. I'm more talking about like the average everyday person. We do a lot of cooning, a lot of us. Why we're having problems, I would have to say because a lot of us don't practice what we preach. Like, nationalism sounds good, but it seems like it hasn't really entered our hearts, or else we would be acting a lot differently than we do. We can't unify on anything. So obviously what we're saying we're about and what we're actually about are 2 different things. And I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if it's because with mainstream Black people, maybe the church's influence may do something to help them out, because at least they have a counselor they can go to, a set of rules that they can agree to, some kind of way. I hate to big up the church because I'm really not all into that. But nationalists, we really don't have that. We don't have an institution where we have counseling, where we have rules and a cultural standard that we live by, because most of us will say, we're African centered, but we really don't want anything to do with Africa. We don't want to have gender roles. We don't want to have rules and regulations. We want to do our own thing. It's kind of still very individualistic instead of communal. So I think that creates a whole lot of problems where maybe somebody with more of an infrastructure doesn't have as many problems.
Sure. Oh, and I did get the ABC book that you made. I love the book. It's a real good book.
Thank you.
And I'm looking to get this one here too, that you've been reading. Just the past couple of weeks, the past 2 weeks. But I was able to catch tonight though. But enjoying the show.
Thank you so much for calling in. Did you have anything else?
No, that's it, sis. That's it.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Love.
Bless. That is my good brother Boopman. We've been missing him calling in. But definitely made some good points. I would never say that all nationalists are dysfunctional because, as I said, I know some who are really good examples. I know some people who are not legally married that still are, I consider them to be good examples. I personally think that you should be married legally because, marriage is a contract. A marriage is like a business. You're producing things. You're producing children, you're producing income, it's something that is stabilizing. And I look at marriage a lot like a business because you're not always going to love each other. You're not always going to like each other. Not all the time, not 24/7. We keep it real. We ain't believing in all these romantic kind of concepts. You have good days, you have bad days, hopefully more good days than bad days. You have a sense of humor and you work through it just like you would in a business sometimes, or even a place of employment. Sometimes you might like your job. Other times it may get on your nerves. Your coworkers, your boss may just, be pushing those buttons, but you still got to go to work and earn an income. And same thing with marriage. You still have to, be together. It's a union, it's a partnership. So that's something that we definitely have to look at. And because it is like a business, I do think that you need to have some kind of contract. Regardless of how you feel about the white man system, this and that, you do need some kind of contract. Because even if one of you, God forbid, would get into an accident or something like that, you need next of kin. Who's going to make the medical decisions? Is it going to be his old pork-eating mama? Or is it going to be you? Somebody going to be saying, pull the plug, and you ain't got nothing to say about that. You might have 5 of his children, but you have no say. So whether you want to say, an actual getting married legally or doing some kind of marriage contract, but you should have a contract in any kind of business, including a marriage. So that is one point I wanted to make. Let me go back to the phone lines. And if you want to call in, I would say do it now. Again, 760-569-7676. Participation code 948656. Hit the pound sign because we probably will be wrapping up the show early today. Peace. How are you?
Real good, Queen. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Yeah, I was just enjoying the show and agreeing with pretty much everything you've been saying, particularly about the marriage, having contracts. I don't know, Elijah Muhammad, when he was still alive, and he had his Nation of Islam up and running. He required the believers to be married. Black folks, do you know how we do it? We love to say we're married and we're not. That's my wife, and we're really not actually married. So he required the believers to show a marriage certificate if they were married. So a lot of them had to get married to stay in the temple. Because, that's how we do. We love to play house and play around, we don't like to get serious and have that contract. So, and like you said, it helps as far as if something happens to one of the spouses, getting Social Security, getting benefits, I know there's common law marriage, but a lot of states don't recognize that as far as getting benefits, getting Social Security. I don't know how the government recognizes that, but it's good to have that contract. It's good to have it. It just puts everything in order. And also what you were talking about earlier as far as courtship, courtship is important, as far as getting to know each other. Courtship means exactly that. You take them to court, see what they can do for you and you can do for them. It's okay to do background checks, talk to family members, talk to mothers, talk to anybody they've had contact with you to know their character, what kind of person they are. And it's also okay to ask a person to go get a physical. If you have insurance, a physical is $20. That's it. If they don't want to pay for it, hell, you pay for it for them. Make sure they don't have any kind of issues. You know, you can't. They had nothing spring on you later in the marriage. You know, well, I got this medical issue. Well, I didn't know that. Should have got that. You know, she did a background check. You know, that's particularly in 2013 and in the future. That's paramount because black people, we love to hide stuff. You know.
And that's very true. I was during my courtship, you know, and not to say that these are all things that make or break you, but just that these are things you need to take into account. Because like when we were going through our courtship process, and you were very forthcoming that you had a medical condition, and because I knew that, I was able to research before we even got married and find out what I could do to help you heal. And now you're 100% healed. But had I not known that, you know, I might have been still feeding you fried chicken and biscuits, and, you know, you probably not be in a very good position right now. So sometimes, you know, you can exclude somebody by the questions you ask if it's a make or break situation. But sometimes if you're really interested in somebody, just knowing what's going on with them and, you know, the things surrounding them can just prepare you to be a better spouse to that person. If there's financial difficulties, if the person does not have good credit, well, you know, you might still want to be with that person, but you may know, okay, well, we got some work to do. We got to get your credit together. We got to get your health together, you know, whatever. See if they're open to that. What did you think about what I said about being a wifey? Because I know that's something a lot of brothers do not like, and probably some sisters too.
Yeah, this is basic playing house. There's no benefit in it. You know, as far as wife, I still don't know what the hell that even is. But there's no benefit in that. You know, if you live with someone for 3 or 4 years and they pass, if they had an ex-wife, the ex-wife is going to get everything. You know, because she was actually legally married to him. So there's no benefit of being a wifey, none whatsoever. He has nothing. He's not bound to you. He's not tied to you. He can pick up and just leave whenever he gets ready.
Now,
so that's not a good position to be in.
Now I know that you're a decent brother and you had a pretty decent set of morals, period. But if I would have, well, we were in different states, so this couldn't have happened anyway. But if we lived in the same state and I had let you move in with me and I was cooking you dinner every day and going 50-50 on bills and helping you raise your children and all that, would you have been in a hurry to marry me? Or do you think that you probably would have been chilling and enjoying the benefits?
Well, me, like, I would have hurried in marriage. I would have married you anyway, regardless. Mm-hmm. But a lot of these brothers won't, so you get the benefit of marriage without being married. Like I said, so you can just pick up and leave anytime he gets ready. No, I wouldn't feel like no.
You know, you would have had me as a wifey for 7 years. I'd probably still be waiting to have a ring on my finger.
No. No.
Yeah, okay.
I wouldn't play house. No, I wouldn't do that. No. What did you?
That's your story. You sticking to it?
You say what?
That's your story and you sticking to it?
That's my story. I'm sticking to it. But as far as the selection process, as you were saying earlier, it's always everything you do, everything you say goes along with the selection process. If you have a medical condition and they can't deal with it, that's not the person for you. If you got bad credit, but it's something that can be worked on, they don't want to do that, it's not the person for you. You just move on, you know?
Definitely. It's a lot harder to move on once you've had some kind of intimate contact with somebody than before that happens.
Well, yeah. You can't have any intimate contact because that throws that's a whole other ball of wax on the game. You can't have any physical contact because it clouds your judgment. It just completely clouds your judgment. So physical contact is a particularly in this day and time, people are addicted, you know, hypersexual activity. People are addicted to sex and they have to have it. But your best bet in this day and time is not to have any physical contact. Not physical contact, but not to have sex. Because as soon as you do that, it's going to cloud your judgment.
Yep, and you're going to end up with Ray Ray. So,
that's right. Or Pookie.
That's right. Or Shanae. Do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, Queen. That is it for me.
All right. Well, thank you for calling in.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. All right. Let's see. 8672, you're live on War on the Horizon. Did you have a question or comment? 8672. All right. I will assume that they are just listening in. So again, today we have been going over kind of loosely God's Gift, chapter 6, which is on sensual healing. The book gets more into some different things to help smooth out the relationship in a wholesome way. One thing I didn't really touch on that I will briefly is how much pornography really damages us. Um, that's a good introduction to homosexuality, number one, and other things, just all forms of deviance. Because the more you see these things, the more you become numb to it, and then you need more and more extreme, degenerate kind of things to keep you interested, because your senses become numb as you watch this stuff over and over and over again. A lot of times it shows things that are not African and have no place in an African relationship. Um, a lot of times it's showing things that are not at all pleasurable to a healthy, emotionally healthy woman. But men watch these and try to get pointers. You're not going to get pointers watching that kind of movie or, magazine, whatever. They are not there to show you how to have a healthy relationship. There are like decent books, like legitimate books and things that you can study, but pornography is not one of them. And a lot of people, if you're in your 20s, you may not really realize this, but there was one time growing up when I was a child when a lot of things that are mainstream nowadays were not cool to do. If you did certain things, you were just an outcast. Like if somebody said you did something, you might have to change schools and go to a different high school because it was just like that bad. Um, but now it's mainstream, and the reason for that is because people started talking about it in rap music. But really, the main thing was because they showed it so much on like different kind of pornographic movies, and people would watch that, and like I said, they became desensitized. It became mainstream, and instead of being disgusting and repulsive, it was just something that people took it for granted that you would do. And so it started off with kind of perverted acts done from man to woman. And then they, when that became mainstream, then they did a lot of lesbian stuff, woman to woman stuff. And then that became pretty much mainstream. Now pretty much everybody's down with that. And then because they were doing these perverse things, man to woman, the natural progression, or I should say unnatural progression, was man to man. And now you have homosexuality being accepted because they saw it a lot on Jerry, and it was a big joke. We thought it was funny. And the more you laugh at somebody, the more desensitized you become to it. And because we saw these things done on pornographic movies so much, that it just crossed the gender barrier, especially with a lot of our brothers going to jail. It became a real issue. So if you are one of those people who are really, really into pornography, I would suggest you try to break that addiction as much as possible, because it's very hard to be spiritually healthy when you're looking at things like that, that are not at all wholesome at all. And wholesome doesn't mean boring. Wholesome just means some normal stuff that you can look at yourself in the mirror, after you do. These are things that we really, really need to take into account. It's not cool, and it also causes damage, and it also makes it very hard to maintain discipline. If you're looking at that kind of stuff, a lot of people become addicted to it. They want to see it more and more, and then those images are in your mind. And then you're sitting there watching pornography, and then I'm sitting here telling you to have sexual discipline. How is that going to work? Because you're always thinking about this. It's always in the back of your mind. It makes it that much harder to be responsible and respectable when you're constantly feeding on those kinds of things. Let's see. I see another caller here. Let's see if they have a question or comment. 6526, you're live on War on the Horizon. 652. Hi, did you have a question or comment?
Oh, am I on the air?
You sure are.
Oh, okay. Hey, peace, sis.
Peace, how are you?
I'm good. I'm doing all right. I'm really enjoying this. This is really deep. This is the question I want to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
The question I want to ask is, say if you already you're in, it's not even the courting stage with someone. After hearing what you had to say, it's like, what if it ain't what you want and like you said, in terms of building, you don't feel that that person is willing to be given that, or you don't. I mean, not even just that. You don't see yourself really with that someone, but you had already got to that intimate stage, and so now, and you already did the kind of wifey thing, but early on, too early, and now you wanna. They're a nice person, but now you wanna like peel away from that, and you wanna. If you wanna cut it off, you have to cut it off. What would you recommend in a good, healthy way to remove yourself from them?
Well, I'd say I'm generally an upfront person, and I believe honesty is the best policy. So I would probably just, very politely and sensitively, but I would just tell the brother that this is not really working out for me at this time, and so we need to separate and go our separate ways. I mean, brothers do it to us all the time, and sometimes we're like, oh, I don't want to hurt his feelings, and I've done that a lot. So believe me, I know. We've all been there in relationships, and that's a problem, and that's something I say in God's gift is that not every relationship can be saved, because if we got into it on the wrong foot, sometimes, we just have to start over. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. You can't change the person, and you probably don't want to change. You may be going in a different place in your life, or you may not have made a good decision. And so it's best to cut it off as soon as possible, because the longer you're together, the more complicated it's going to get. You're going to be more intertwined. You're going, stuff just pops up. So it's really better to break it off early rather than later. And it's better to be kind but honest. I don't believe in brutal honesty. I think that you can be very honest but still be very kind and compassionate while you're doing it. But the thing is that I've learned, and I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day, your time is valuable, and the other person's time is valuable as well. And time is not something that you want to waste. You don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste his time. And if you know that it's not going to work, if you know he's not the person for you, just like you could be out there looking for the person that's going to be your partner, he could be doing the same thing. So you don't want to waste his time leading him on when you know that there's no future. If there's something that you can work on, that's one thing, but when it's not right, when you're not feeling it, and what's the alternative, to go behind his back and cheat or do something that's going to create more drama. Just let him know. He may be hurt, but he'll be all right.
Yeah, I think he'll be all right, because in this case, I was really trying. The people were saying, be patient with him. He's going through a really tough time, okay? And was being patient with him. But I know at the same time, I'm depriving myself of a lot, because when he needs something, he's always there front and center, calling me up. Oh, you got this. Can you help me with that? But then when I even just call and check on if he's okay, or I don't get any text back or anything like that, So after a while, I could deal with that. I could hold on. I try to be his backbone to support him. But, when he gets better on his foot, I don't think that anything is going to grow from there. So, like you said, I think it's best that we just go ahead and go our way.
Exactly. And as a woman, you always kind of know in your gut, when it's like that. And, it's one thing if you built something together and then you go through a rough patch. A lot of times that's kind of worth, waiting it out and things like that. But if it's just kind of been like that and you're, hoping that one day it's going to change, I wouldn't put the effort in there personally. I would go on and look for something I could build from the ground up, because another thing is we don't really pay attention to is when you get with somebody, you're kind of teaching them how to treat you and what you will accept. And once they get used to being a certain kind of way, it's very hard to go back and try to improve that and say, okay, now you need to respect me, or now you need to treat me this way. You need to pay me attention. If they haven't been doing that, it probably isn't going to last, because they're used to treating you in a completely different way.
Absolutely.
Unless, like I said, it started out, being like that, and then you just went through a rough period and then you can get it back. But unless you've had like a couple year stretch where everything was cool, if you kind of started off and it kind of just went downhill pretty quickly, then probably not. You ain't going to get it back. Now, I don't mean to be negative either, because some people think I'm negative, but
Listen, listen, and all that you said, I'm glad for it. It's like a breath of fresh air. You being real and raw like that, we need that. And I'm thankful. This is my first time ever listening in, but I'm going to make it a habit. I love it. It's wonderful.
Thank you. And I just say that because, like I said, when I wrote the book, I can write that book because I've been through a lot of stuff. And I know when I was in my 20s, I went through the whole, try to save the world kind of thing. Get with these brothers that were not husband potential, father potential, anything like that. And just stick it out. And maybe because I'm so wonderful, if they're with me long enough, they'll do right. I wasted so much time. I wasted years of my life with nothing to show. So that's why I kind of try to keep it real, because I don't want nobody else to waste, 5-10 years of their life, and then learn the lesson.
Exactly. Yes. So thank you. I'm really, yes. It's good. I'm going to get that book. I'm going to get this book. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have anything else that you wanted to say?
No, I don't want to take up anybody else's time, but I think that's about it. I think I'm good on that. I'm going to let that marinate.
Oh.
And, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for calling in, and you be sure to call back.
I will. Thank you, sis.
You're welcome. Peace.
Peace.
I'm going to just put the disclaimer up there, because I'm all for Black love. I'm 100% for Black love, but I'm also for Black stability. And there is a section in the book, and we'll be getting into that in a couple weeks. Basically, if you can't get along in peace, when is it time to let go? And only you can make that decision. We all know. But I feel like as a woman, a lot of times we know what to do. And we just don't listen to it because either we're afraid we're going to hurt his feelings, which 9 times out of 10, we probably ain't going to hurt their feelings, as I found out. Most of the time, they'll be all right. Just a number of things. Sometimes we want to hold on because it's some level of security. We at least know what to expect from the brother. Maybe we have children with the brother, whatever. There's a lot of reasons we do it, but sometimes if you know it's never been right. You got into it. You rushed into it too quick. It wasn't right from the beginning. It's probably not going to be. It's probably not going to be. And in those kind of situations, sometimes you want to take some time for yourself and work on yourself a little bit. Figure out, what do you want? Where are you going in life? What do you want in a man? What is a man to you? What is important? What are you attracted to? And then go from there and go on and find that person that's going to be a good mate for you. Definitely, because not everybody is. And it doesn't mean that person's a bad person either. It just means that they're not right for you. Not everybody's compatible. I know lots of guys who are great guys, but we wouldn't get along for 2 days. Like, I can be your friend all day long, but in a relationship, no, we're not compatible. And so that's why the courtship is so important, and why going on and staying away from that kind of intimate relationship, intimate connection is so important, because you need your eyes open and you need to be able to see these things so that you're not like a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years into it, and then you realize like, wow, this wasn't the right one. I've wasted, so much time. Definitely not the realization you want to come to, but we've all been there and done that. But now we have the tools to be able to make some different decisions. 2874, you're live on War on the Horizon. Did you have a question or comment?
Listen.
All right, thank you for listening. 3271, you're live on War on the Horizon. Three, 2, 7, 1. All right. Well, I do thank everybody that called in. I'm just going to reiterate a few things. As I've been saying all along, we have to hold each other to higher standards. If we don't, we are going to continue to have low quality men and women, and all we're going to do is sit around and complain about it and never fix the problem. Sex is a very important part of a relationship. It does have a very important place in a relationship, but that is in a relationship, in a working, functioning, committed relationship where you are working to build something, where whether it be a business, whether it be a family, you are working and actively building somebody, you actually have a partnership. Your spouse should be your partner, and you can't be a partner if you're not doing anything, if you're not building anything. You look at your marriage like a business. What are you producing? Is it successful, or are you going to go bankrupt? What's going on with your relationship? You look at it very similar to that, and you have some kind of contract. You, like I said, should have a reason to know the other person's social security number. If you don't need to know that, y'all don't really have anything. It's not as deep as you're trying to make it seem. You can't fall in love because the brother got some pretty eyes or the sister got some nice curves or whatever. That's very, very superficial, and we need to get away from that. You definitely want to have STD testing. You definitely want to be asking questions. You definitely want to be meeting parents. You want to know, does he have a father in his life? If not, has he had a male role model? If not, who has taught him how to be a man? Because if nobody has taught him how to be a man, you will probably have some problems in that relationship. Because a lot of people who do not know how to be men try to show their manhood in dysfunctional ways. They may go around sleeping with a bunch of women. They may beat up on a woman just to show they're a man, or they may, it's a lot of brothers walking around all the time. I'm a man. You ain't going to talk to me. You ain't going to do this. I'm a man. All this little silly stuff to prove they're a man, because they know deep down inside they don't know what it takes to be a man. Very, very dysfunctional. So ask those questions. And the same thing with men. Who has taught your woman how to be a woman? Has she had some kind of crazy, domineering, feminist monster telling them they don't need a man? They can do bad all by themselves. They don't have to listen to nothing you say, and she'll never respect you as any kind of authority figure whatsoever. Won't let you be a man in your own house. These are things that we need to look for, and we need to look for them before we begin to become intimate with each other. Because once you do that, it's a wrap. Once you do that, courtship's over. You ain't objective no more. You're not looking anymore. You either fell real deep in love, or you completely repulsed. It's one or the other. And most of the times you fall, quote unquote, deep in love, deep in lust, and it's a wrap. So these are all things that you need to keep in mind. Remember, whenever you're being intimate with somebody, that they are potentially going to be the parents of your child, and you will be tied to them for at least 2 decades, probably longer than that, because then there'll be grandchildren and what have you. So that's really all that I have for you today. We will be continuing on with the book next week. I'm not sure which one we're going to do next week, because I was going to go over chapter 7, Nurturing His Children. However, I have a very special guest for that program, and I don't think they're available next week. So I'm going to hold off on that show and cover a different chapter. So if you just want to friend me on Facebook and just be looking on Facebook for what the next program will be, we will definitely do that. I may go on and do the chapter on divine beauty next week. I have to see. I might talk about natural beauty, hair, skincare, things like that. So just keep in touch. Pay attention on Facebook, see what it will be about, but we will be having a show next week, same time, same place. The cipher is going to be coming on at 9 o'clock, so be sure to tune back in for that. And I believe that we will be having a roundtable this Saturday. I think the topic is going to be fags and the black women who love them. So that will be a fiery topic. So we should be doing that. So definitely, like I said, just keep watching Facebook. You'll see we should be having that round table, and just keep aware of our other programs. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you, everybody who tuned in, and I will see you next week. Peace.
Goddess, it's obvious this devil got us at each other's throats like we don't need each other just to stay afloat. I took a solemn oath I wouldn't abandon you. Be a man for you, stand for you, let it bang for you. Beyond the present, setting the standard for our children. Living life in the likeness and image of ourselves. Bias and forwards in the wilderness and hells of North America. Goddess incarnate, a reach up my heart. My reflection, my lifeline, my all spark. My conscience, the battery in my back. The clip to my ratchet when I'm on the attack. Make a house into a home, escape madness in our palace. The one for her embrace focuses my malice. We know the enemy and its many faces, and in many motives to try to decimate us. One is separation, I don't want a vision, that anxiety. Literally for the life of me, I'd rather die than be with that other white meat. Brothers like to sightsee, saying they like variety, but that's a cop-out, he won't see the light. Black women got the most variety, cause there's no phenotype. That's either there or there, let me make it clear. I don't just gotta love you, I wanna love you. Yes, let's take it there. For brothers seeking out your compliments, you should only look at one continent. Brothers seeking out your compliment, you should only look at one continent. Never mind the geographic location. When you look at her God, you know where she from. Look at her hair, son. Look at her. Damn, son. Nah, I'm saying, don't get it twisted, I respect your intellect too. Nah, queen, this isn't just sexual. Love and respect is due, but I'm a man when words fail to be adequate. All I can say is, in the relationship, I'll be the anchor, you the sail. Only through miscommunication can we fail. My business is your business. When I get big-headed, you let me know I'm tripping and give forgiveness. I'd be lying if I ain't wanna wring your neck sometimes, but in the bigger pic, I be killing sunshine. Say it with me, a BB for Odie. A, yes, my lady, that's the only aim. As we build being examples for the village, keeping the family peace and punishing the wicked. If I come home with blood on my hands, you already know what it is and who it was. Let's smash. Brothers seeking out your compliments, you should only look at one continent. Brothers seeking out your compliment, you should only look at one continent. Our goals align, homes fortified. Let's hold the line, let's hold the line. I live for you, you live for me. Ain't no mystery, ain't no mystery.